once in a while, man, I tell you what, every once in a while you are tuning in to the Secret Restaurant Podcast. So I think in my mind, I have it in my head like everybody listens to every episode when I'm recording it, when deep down I know that people don't listen to every episode. So I wanted to remind people, an announcement I made a couple weeks ago. I put the press on hiatus. I'm saying this for a reason. So I put the press on hiatus where I'm not going to be physically printing books anymore for a while or publishing people, open calls, magazines, all that. Mainly, there's a reason I'm saying this. Did I already say that? There's a reason I'm saying this. Okay. So then I said that a few episodes ago, but I kept doing the podcast because I get a rush from it, really. That's what's happening, guys. I really get a rush from doing these and knowing how much people out there are fulfilled by them. But, all right, I'm going to talk about a few things because I think I'm on the fence now. I'm thinking about this might be the last episode for a while. And I'll tell you why. So I've told this story a lot, but like it has to pertain to like phones. It has to pertain to social media or like anything you do. Like the type of person that I am, like if I'm being creative or if I'm putting work into something, it's like not something that I sit down and set time aside to do it. It's like I'm a person who, if I start a project, I'm going to be doing it 24/7. And I can do multiple projects at once, but there's still like how many projects can you do at once? And so my best example basically was like with social media. Like take a thing like Twitter. I used to be like, for tweets and X and all that, I'll be like literally cooking, or I'd be like literally like in a waiting room and I'd think of something and then in my head I'd be like, oh, that's a tweet. And so your creative energy goes to a tweet, right? And it's like, what the fuck is the point of a tweet? And then I deleted my Twitter, and then all of a sudden those thoughts, it's like, well, I still have them, but they're going to go somewhere else. So then it was like, I started writing more. I started having new ideas about what to do with publishing. Now I feel like that sort of thing where it's like you think about things, you get ideas. I feel like I'm doing that kind of a little bit with the podcast now. Like I'll think of something funny or something about what I'm reading or something about an event takes place in the real world in my life, and then it's like, oh, how could you spin this into a bit or articulate it verbally? And in reality, long-term wise, it kind of seems like it's not the most productive way to use energy for me. Other people do great with it, obviously. Other people, they have careers in speaking or in conversing or giving, I almost said algorithms, what are they called? Antidotes, things like that. But it's just like, I don't want to be like sitting there getting ready to go to sleep, and then I think of something. It's like, oh, I should do this on the podcast. I would rather think of something and be like, I'm gonna write this down, basically. But who knows? I mean, I think it would be a good idea because it is just like, it took me a long time to figure out how much social media really has kind of slowed my own progress. So now I'd like to find out if this podcast is an extension of it. But the hard part is also like those social media things, like they kind of have empty promises of reaching audiences that artists need to do now. But really, like, how many people are getting their brand new favorite musician from like watching videos on Instagram? I don't think that many. It's more like once people are already famous, then the fandoms all of a sudden are like digging deep into their archives, and then you start seeing the algorithm show you like, who was I getting on my feed? Oh, I've been getting like all Slipknot lately, which is cool. Shout out to Iowa. But it kind of, actually, so it was on YouTube, and I'm not sure when the interview took place, But the Slipknots, you know, they have like 9 members, or they used to. I don't know if they still do, but one of their members is a DJ. He actually does like record scratches, but it's not so simple. It's like very atmospheric electronic DJ shit. And I don't know his last name. His name's Sid something. But this one specific interview kept popping up of him, where it was like short videos of him, like honestly like 30-second videos pulled from this longer interview. And it was kind of like mesmerizing, just like listening to him talk. I mean, not just because of the music he's made and the career he's had, but kind of just like him as a person. It was like, to me, he seemed like very zen and like very like confident in his words and not saying too much and shit. And so I kept on clicking on him, and then that's kind of what made me want to listen to Slipknot again. But then of course you go to the comments and they're like all being assholes to him. It's like, you know, not every artist has to be like overly articulating themselves either. There are plenty more artists who have the mystery about them, such as me. So I'm gonna spend the last 20 minutes of this podcast in silence. So join me. All right, let's start now. I finished Universal Baseball Association Incorporation, etc. of Robert Coover. It's a pretty good book. I will say it's funny because it's like, I don't mean to not like boasting, but it is like a challenging book, I would say, especially as a challenging literary book. The one good part about it is that it's pretty short. It's like maybe 230 pages. But that being said, there were a bunch of times where I was reading it, because there would be like solid scenes, clear scenes, and then there honestly is a lot of baseball reference. So if you don't know about baseball, or if you don't like baseball, it's probably not the book for you. But there's a lot of reference to like stats and like the teams in the league, all their like their records and placement rankings, and then there's all the players, and the actual like games itself, which I guess I should say what it's actually about. It's about this dude who creates this dice game that recreates baseball, and he becomes like obsessed with it. And so he plays through like over 50 seasons of this dice game where he makes up all the players, makes up all the way that you play, like the rules, what the dice can be interpreted as, and what they mean for like each pitch and each play and all of that. And so the book, it's kind of got, if I were to oversimplify the actual writing of it, it's basically got like the dude who created the game. It's like his life. And then it's also the game itself. And then it's also the characters, the players in the game that are technically fictional. They also come to life. And so it's kind of like those 3 levels of a storytelling. But then also the actual writing of it, it's like a form of, it's a book that's considered postmodernism. So it's also like from a sentence level, it can be very poetic or also unusual, I guess. And so the reason I'm saying all this is because there were a lot of times reading it, like some scenes are very clear, and then you're reading the stats, and that's like clear enough. But there were some parts where I didn't know. This happens to me a lot in like super avant-garde books or challenging books. Like there's sometimes where I don't know if the writing is being esoteric in itself, or if I'm just like not reading it right? Because sometimes it is like overly poetic, abstract ideas. It's very esoteric, and the language takes over the actual storytelling as opposed to just doing a description of action or reflection. Like the poetic language takes over. And so when those parts happen, honestly, despite me being a quote-unquote poet, sometimes I do tend to check out of those parts. But then sometimes I'll be reading it and I'll be like, am I supposed to actually be understanding what exactly is happening plot-wise here? Or is it just like an internal reflection in one of the characters' minds or whatever? And I mean, I feel like if you understand the book, if you understand the story, or if you get anything out of it, it doesn't really matter if some parts are kind of skimmed over anyway. I'm glad I read it. sometimes I was reading it while baseball was happening when I could have instead been watching the Chicago Cubs or White Sox. I was instead reading this book, but mostly it was because I was trying to get through it, because I have a hard time finishing books, honestly. So I was like, I need to finish this one. Maybe some criticism. I wish there was a little bit more depth to the characters, because it was like, the imaginary athletes that are part of the dice game aren't incredibly deep because they only exist in the game, obviously. Like they have their whole existence be in their careers in this fictional baseball game. But I do kind of wish that the characters outside of the game had a little more depth to them. But then I think that escapes the point of the story, maybe. I don't know, it was interesting because it was like this guy creates this game, he dedicates his life to it, and really nobody else plays it or even knows how to play it. Like in the end of the book, he tries to teach someone how to play it and it goes horribly wrong. But it's kind of this thing he did by himself for a really long time. I guess it could be a metaphor for creating anything, really, writing a book. Except that he didn't have any intention of sharing it, creating art in that way. But I just felt like towards the end of it, I was kind of thinking about how boring of a character he was. And it's like it's weird how he's a boring character when he's actually kind of like an overly creative entrepreneur with a great imagination. Like the whole game, there's no pieces or like board or anything. It's simply he rolls dice and he writes down stats, but in his mind he imagines like an entire league of fictional people. So I was kind of, maybe him being like a out there character would have confused the fact that he was so focused on the game itself. I don't know. You know what's funny? I'm always telling you the funniest things. After saying I'm always using my creative energy to think about podcasting, now I can't remember any of the things because, I think it's been like a couple weeks maybe, or a week and a half since I done one. What have I been up to? Thanks for asking. Mostly I've just been killing it out. I've just been killing it out there. Just walking around, just like any form of success or any form of, accomplishment, or just stepping over people, just climbing up the backs of people. There was like 20 minutes where I was like, I'm gonna find an agent. And so I found a bunch of agents in Chicago, and then I was like looking all the things up. I was doing all my research, and then like they were like, you have to have a whole manuscript ready, and I was like, damn it. I'm moving along with that novel, but every time I think I'm getting close, then like I realize there needs to be way more expansion on certain parts of it. Here's a question that I've been thinking about. So in these modern times, is it more productive to, if you have a good idea, right? If you have a great idea, if you have the most amazing idea that anyone could possibly think of, and it is a story, I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if it's smarter to write a novel and then there's the potential that it can get adapted, or I wonder if it's better to just write the screenplay. Because I do know that a lot of scripts get purchased and then never made. And then you're kind of like, you wasted the idea or whatever. And then there's other times where they do get made, obviously. But if you write a book, then you have the book. People will get to read it. The story is done and out there, and you can be proud of it. And then there is the potential to have an adaptation. I don't even know how often scripts are adapted by new books anymore, though. I mean, I actually don't really know. The first one I thought of was like that Gone Girl, or that author had a couple. She did that Sharp Objects was a miniseries on HBO. I know the creator of True Detective first published a short story collection, but I don't know if any of those stories had anything to do with True Detective as a television show. And then, of course, they're doing, like, the Odyssey. So, like, maybe that doesn't count because that's, like, really old. What other movies came out? I mean, Frankenstein's really old. I don't know. I can't really think of... I think they're doing maybe more original scripts now. Whereas back in the day, it was like all the movies you love were actually kind of... A lot of them were based on books. Even if they were larger differences from it. I did like there was the streak, or it's still kind of happening, of like... quote unquote literary fiction that people kind of said could never be adapted. People are giving those ones a shot. Like, I always kind of forgot that One Battle After Another was based on a Thomas Pynchon novel. I mean, that's what it was. It was under, in the Oscars, it was under adapted script. Excuse me. Even though the plot isn't directly, I've never read the book, but I don't think the plot is directly adaptation, but it's based on it, so they still had it be an adaptation. And obviously, that same director did Pynchon's Inherent Vice. Train Dreams was an adaptation of a quote-unquote literary postmodernist writer. Wicked. Was Wicked a book first or a play first? Musical. I don't know. Yeah, anyway, all those are kind of published 20 plus years ago. Some even more. Oh, they did, sorry, I'm just rambling now, but they did the Don DeLillo White Noise a few years back. That was a novel people said you couldn't really adapt. And I've been hearing rumors. Cormac McCarthy, ton of Cormac McCarthy. The Road, No Country for Old Men, and I've been hearing rumors for the millionth time that people are gonna try and do Blood Meridian. I don't know if that's true or not. But was there another one? I never saw All the Pretty Horses, the movie. I read the book. Is that it? I think so. Started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I finished Sons of Anarchy. There's like a spider on the wall. It keeps distracting me. Okay, so Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I had seen several episodes because I think it's pretty much at this point canon for my millennial generation. It's like a cult classic or even just regular classic. Particularly for the socially awkward women who grew out of their socially awkwardness and still have nostalgia for vampire hunters. I've seen a lot of episodes, but never from like season 1. So I watched season 1, and it's actually a ton of fun, honestly. I mean, I think the first season, people kind of... I do this thing, sometimes I'll see how they rank the seasons, and the first season is usually one of the worst ones, or it's lower on the list. But I thought it was like really, really good. It's like there's a lot of campiness, obviously, because it's about like a high school vampire hunter. But like even the action is kind of hilarious in it. Like there's this one shot where like someone like throws a spear or something, and then they do that thing where like you see the spear in the camera, and then the wall is traveling really fast behind it. Like that's how they shot it. It's not actually flying through the air. It's like someone just held the spear and then they had like a thing fly behind it. It's like special effects like that. And there's tons of like makeup and puppets and all that. And then a lot of the action is kind of like sleight of hand type stuff. which I really like, and we could probably use some more of it these days with all the AI and CGI and all that overdone special effects. Ooh, actually, I think I'm going to talk about Buffy once I've watched more of it. Oh, actually, this is the last episode. I forgot. So I'll talk about Buffy for a second. So it's actually really funny, and the actors in it, even though they're like playing high schoolers and they are all pretty young, I feel like there's like a really kind of tongue-in-cheek way of their acting where the dramaticness of high schoolers is like very aware of itself. It's very funny. The dialogue is very sharp, and I don't know, it's just very aware of itself, and it's kind of like the world gets like introduced to you very quickly, and you kind of get invested in it and enveloped into it almost right away. It's sort of like when I was, because the first season was 1997, and I was born in 92, so I definitely wasn't watching it when it was on, but it's always kind of been a show that the fandom has been there. People have been fans of it and watching it. It's a cultural reference, basically. But, you know, growing up, when you're, like, in high school, like, you don't want to watch that show because, you know, it's about high school girls. Like, why would you watch a high school girl show, right? And then when you turn 32, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I want people to know that I'm watching a show about high school girls. But it's not really like that. It's not like a teen drama or anything. It's actually an action show. And, you know, it's nostalgic, too. But it is sort of, like, the protagonist is definitely, the main protagonist is the girl. And then kind of a lot of the men in it are, like, there to, they only exist because of her almost in the plot, which isn't uncommon. I mean, a lot of shows do that, romantic shows or otherwise. But it's kind of like a lot of the characters are there to either be like villains or romantic interests just to this one girl character. So it's definitely from like her perspective, just from a writing standpoint, that's interesting and kind of probably why some people love it and some people don't. But I've only watched one season. I'm going to try and keep on rolling through it and see if the first season really is lower on the list ranking wise. I guess I will close this podcast before my hiatus from the audio waves of time. So I don't want to say the author's name again, because every time you say his name, for some reason, YouTube will say that he is mentioned in it in the description. But it's a certain author with the initials of SK, who I talk about all the time. The adaptation of his novel, The Running Man, was released late last year, maybe 2025. And I didn't know what to think because it's the second adaptation. The first one is from either late 80s or maybe really early 90s with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it's like an adaptation of his novel, but the 80s adaptation goes very far away from the initial plot. But I love that movie. I saw the movie before I read the book. And then they remade it. And it looked really cool from the ads. But, you know, anymore with so many movies, I feel like I've been let down so many times of stuff I've been excited to see that I almost was procrastinating watching it. But it's basically about, it's a dystopian future where they have this tournament where it's basically like a manhunt where like these kind of mercenaries try and hunt down 3 contestants on a game show, and it's all televised. People are huge fans of it. And they basically have to make it 30 days without getting killed. And then they make a bunch of money. And so then the hero of it, he decides to do it. And then it's just told from his perspective of trying to escape this kind of utilitarian, what's the word? Basically this evil empire that's like corrupting the media, and it's like run by basically really bad people. It's almost like the Hunger Games. I think the Hunger Games even maybe drew from Running Man, because it's that vibe with like the ultra rich, and it's all broadcasted on television, and then people basically die on TV or whatever. I was pretty impressed with it about the 2025 adaptation of Running Man. The visuals on it are awesome. The cast is awesome. I feel like there's always, like, with new movies, no matter what, if you had to split it 50-50 visuals, and then 50-50 writing, visuals are always, like, apparently way more important to the people making the movie than the actual plot or the actual writing. I think this one, it wasn't awful, but there were a lot of parts that the dialogue, I was like, that's really bad. And there are other parts that were really good. There's like a bunch of actors in it. Like William H. Macy has a really good small role. Michael Cera has a really good small role. Josh Brolin. And they all kind of, those types of actors, they kind of show up and they do their thing. And it's really exciting to see them. But then there's also a lot of moments where it's like, this is kind of corny outside of that. But I mean, when I was done watching, I was like, I'm really glad I actually sat down and watched the whole thing. Pretty inspiring. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people could write papers about how the movie pertains to the world now with like social media or like entertainment. I don't know. There's so much like violent entertainment that people get rich off, but then they end up like getting seriously injured or like basically people are cheering on like violence, not to the level of like a manhunt, but I do feel like they were drawing certain ways from like the real world today. And it was the director of like Shaun of the Dead and that Baby Driver movie, a bunch of other stuff. So, or I think that's what it was. Sometimes I read a bunch of stuff, I forget which is which. All right, that's all I've got for today. I don't know. It probably isn't the end, but I'll probably take a break to settle down and rewire my brain a bit. Finish this novel I'm working on. Maybe even start another one. But anyway, if you're listening to this years in the future, be sure to check out my poetry collections, Last Holiday, 24-Hour Monologue, and Book Zero, all available on the internet. And that's it. All right, goodbye.